Tugad Conculia. Ira, you said taking medical cards from very sick children is not acceptable, but this cannot be changed overnight. Why can't it? Why can't it be changed overnight? You also said that 93% of sick citizens had their cards restored, but this was after an appeals system, and that very system, those procedures have many families worn out. And to tell you the truth, it's very disappointing to come in here and listen to you giving the answer that you've just given. It's obviously business as usual for the government. You hear nothing, you listen to nothing, you pay heed to nobody. You've learned nothing from the election results. Just before the election, there was an unprecedented wave of contriteness as opposed to contrariness from government ministers. We saw on the back of a public warning from Father Peter McVerry, an acknowledgement that there was a housing problem, despite the fact that we and others have been raising it here for a very long time. And you yourself said, in terms of the crisis over medical cards, that the approach to the review of medical cards will have to be changed. But nothing has changed according to your answer today. And by the way, we don't need a review. A review is not necessary. The system, the policy, simply needs to be ended. And our health spokesperson, Caoimhín Ó Caoláin, has prepared legislation to restore discretionary medical cards to those who have had them taken away. But, Minister, this should not have to be necessary. The government should immediately do the decent thing and restore these medical cards. Mar a dúr an seanachal, it's bar and sláinte, na natánseo. So would you now, just having a chance to reflect for a moment or two, say unambiguously and without equivocation that this government will stop denying medical cards to citizens who need them?
Thank you.
The government has heard the concerns raised in recent months, and indeed they have been raised in a more magnified way in the last few weeks. And the economic recovery, which we are working very hard to achieve, is succeeding, and we need to continue with stable conditions to ensure the economy grows and that we get our people back to work. But in that context, we must protect the most vulnerable in society. And as I say, the government does not stand over a situation where medical cards are taken from very sick children. And I've also committed that the relevant ministers, Ministers Riley and White, will address all the issues that have been raised and will come up with proposals very shortly. But, you know, Deputy Adams, you were addressing the situation as if Sinn Féin policy was that everybody in the country, regardless of means or illness, should get a medical card. 42% have medical cards already. But, you know, we are not agreeing with you that everybody should get a medical card, because the country simply can't afford that. And there has to be eligibility for medical cards, both on a means basis and an assessment of medical need. And we're trying to move into that position. But there was 100,000 additional cards put out in 2013. There are more medical cards in circulation now than there ever was before, almost 2 million. 42% of the population have medical cards, and with the review of medical cards, 3.6 of 79,000 people lost their medical cards during the review. That's the position. I know there are hard cases. There have been dreadful cases pointed out to all of us, and that's what I'm saying. The HSE will operate and will be told to operate now in a situation that taking cards from sick children is no longer an acceptable option.
Deputy Adams, 1 minute. Thank you.
You see, Ira, you say that the government does not stand over taking medical cards from very sick children, but the government does. Every single day. There will be children today, this day, who will be refused the type of health attention and treatment that they deserve as citizens. And you say you disagree with Sinn Féin. Well, thanks be to God that you disagree with Sinn Féin. I'm an Irish Republican. That means that citizens have rights, and that includes the right for those vulnerable citizens, the sick, the aged, the young, and those who society needs to protect, that they should be afforded these very basic elementary rights. So it is disappointing. I repeat what I said earlier on. It is disappointing to come in here after the election, and remember, the election caused the resignation of the Taoiseach, and I wish the Taoiseach and his family well. I understand there's a trauma for his family and for himself and all of this. This isn't about personalities. This is about policies, and you have once again reinforced the policy that you're standing over. You're saying it's going to happen. You say we can't afford it. We can afford to pay big bankers.
Thank you.
We can afford to pay ministerial salaries. We can afford to pay all of those people, and it's almost as if you have your head buried in the sand. That you talk about hard cases. What does that mean, hard cases? What does it mean? Why don't you just act intelligently, act in a swift way, and restore to these citizens their entitlements to have medical treatment on the basis of medical need and not personal wealth?
Minister.
Well, I'm not very impressed by your proclamation of the new republic, because it seems to me that you're committed to unrestrained public expenditure on all fronts, and that you're going to pile taxation on the shoulders of ordinary people to the degree that you'll increase unemployment and cost them their jobs. That's what's going to happen if we follow your policies. I've asked you a simple question. I've asked you a very simple question.
Please.
I've asked you a very simple question. 42% of people in Ireland at present have medical cards. Are you saying that should be 100%? And if you're not saying it should be 100%, what's your criteria of eligibility? I'm saying that the most vulnerable should have their medical card, and no review should take them away. Sick children should not be deprived of medical cards. But we haven't yet heard what your criteria of eligibility is. Who wouldn't you give the cards to, or would you give them to everyone?
Thank you. Deputy Daly, thank you.